Okay. Devon, we know you're joining us on the phone because where you were and your live location was no longer safe. Can you describe where you were and what was happening?
Yeah, Julie, it seems as though things have gone from bad to worse since we've been out here since this afternoon, really. We were down near the 3rd Precinct off East Lake Street and Minnehaha Avenue, and the flash bombs continued, the tear gas continued to flow, and that's when we noticed some of the properties around the area were being looted. We saw people going in and out of some of the little local liquor stores in the area, going in, stealing liquor bottles and whatnot. People were going into the auto zone, which you just mentioned is on fire right now as I'm talking to you guys. And we had to go a couple miles down the road down East Lake Street just to get away from the chaos because the parking lot where we were parked at the U.S. Bank, well, the protesters headed down to that direction and started breaking into the bank of the parking lot where we were parked. The U.S. Bank windows are bust out right now as a result of people taking bats to the windows in that area. So we packed up all of our gear. We were just getting ready to set up to go live just out of the just from down the way from the 3rd Precinct, and we saw all of the people heading our way, running in our direction as the fire trucks and stuff were coming in, and we saw that they were going after some of the buildings in our area and even some of the cars in the parking lot where we were parked. So we packed up everything. We headed down. We are now out. We're about 2 miles out from the actual epicenter where everything is taking place right now. The smoke from the auto zone that's on fire right now, that alone was enough to cut your breath off while you were trying to stand out there and trying to find cover, if you will, and find shelter, if you will, just because of all the explosive materials, that are in that store right now that are on fire. So we have cleared the scene down the street here. We have found a safe spot where we are setting up shop, and hopefully we can go live for you guys later in the show to kind of put into perspective what's really happening out here, just so that you guys can see exactly what people are having to deal with out here. And it doesn't seem like these crowds are dying down anytime soon. As a matter of fact, people have been coming and going all day since we've been out here earlier today at 2 o'clock when the protests moved from 38th in Chicago to the 3rd Precinct here off of East Lake Street. So a very, very unfortunate situation unfolding out here tonight. And, many people I spoke with say that, I don't think this is what George Floyd would have necessarily, envisioned or wanted when it comes to people demanding justice on his behalf. So, a lot of things happening out here. And it's very unfortunate, for some of the businesses that have been destroyed, literally destroyed as a result of everything that's unfolded out here tonight. Julie?
So, Devon, as you were watching, I have 2 questions for you. The first is, were you noticing as night fell, did it seem the crowds were growing or were they getting smaller? Or maybe you couldn't tell from your perspective. And my second question is, when you saw the AutoZone, the Targets, the U.S. Bank windows being broken, was there any police presence around those areas that you saw tonight or not?
Well, to answer your first question, as the evening progressed, the crowd definitely grew larger. There were more people out here this evening as the sun was setting than there were earlier this afternoon, and it seems as though people are still coming. While we were back out there parked in the U.S. Bank parking lot, we saw droves of people coming down the street, heading in the direction of all of the chaos, the epicenter, if you will, of the protest. So, yeah, the crowd has definitely gotten larger, and it seems like, well, it's pretty obvious, actually, that the crowds have gotten a lot more hostile, if you will, with everything that's unfolding out here right now. And what was your second question? Sorry about that.
So did you notice any police presence around those businesses or in the neighborhoods? Or are they mostly centered around the 3rd Precinct building itself?
It's unfortunate. Many of the officers involved out here in the 3rd Precinct are really just stuck down there trying to man the epicenter of all of this. So, no, there were no police that were around some of the businesses that were being looted or the area that we were in. But what I will say, what was kind of nice was that there were some protesters who took it upon themselves to kind of block people from looting some of these businesses and trying to break into some of the businesses. One guy I spoke with, I asked him, I said, hey, do you own this shop here, this tobacco shop? And he said, no, but I'm just sick of what is unfolding out here right now. This is not why we are out here. This is not what we're asking for. So there are people on the flip side of this who, want to protest peacefully and are taking it upon themselves to to kind of keep the peace and order, if you will, out here.
Yeah, so would you say, I know you've been out there all day, Devon, and would you say that earlier today it was mostly peaceful, and as it's gotten later into the evening, it has taken a dark turn? And would you say that there are still a lot of peaceful protesters out there tonight, or is it just kind of devolved into mayhem?
It's kind of devolved into mayhem. I will say we started our coverage out on 38th and Chicago, which is where the initial arrest took place of George Floyd. And it was really peaceful out there this morning, actually. They had a couple people who came in from Chicago, and they were kind of spearheading everything this morning. They were had a peaceful protest going on. They had their bullhorns out. They were chanting different things, and people were coming and laying flowers and pictures and whatnot at the makeshift memorial that they made out on the street where everything took place. But then around 2 o'clock, they made the announcement that the protest was going to move to the 3rd precinct, and it seems as though from 2 o'clock on is when things started to really go downhill. It was around maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock when police started to take everything into their own hands, and they started to come in with the tear gas and everything like that, coming in all different directions from some of the side streets, from the major intersection. Police were just coming from everywhere, out of nowhere, even on horses, with the tear gas and everything like that, trying to control the crowds, if you will, because many of them were out there throwing bottles. People were throwing rocks. Our crews even had to try to run and take shelter to avoid getting hurt and, manage our own safety while we were out and about. But yeah, it definitely has taken a turn for the worse as nightfall has reached us. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be getting any better anytime soon. And I haven't seen any other extra police out in the area where we were either. So.
I'm wondering, Devon, did you have, I don't know where you were stationed today or how much you moved around. It sounds like quite a bit. Were you ever near the actual 3rd precinct? Did you see what was happening there between police and protesters? From what we could see from Sky 11, it seemed as if there was literally just a line of shoulder-to-shoulder police officers standing and at times moving the crowd back. I'm assuming they were moving them back from the police precinct building, but it was rather hard to tell from Sky 11. I'm wondering if you have any insight on that.
Yeah, so we were just maybe a block or two away from the actual precinct. And you're right, there were shoulder-to-shoulder police that were lined up outside of the precinct, pushing those crowds back. Because I don't know if some of our viewers may have noticed last night, some of the protesters actually damaged the precinct. Some of the windows were blown out. They have some of them boarded up. And then there were also police that were lined up on the roof of the precinct today, along with those officers that were shoulder to shoulder down on the street level. There were also officers that were on top of the roof. They had beanbag guns that they were firing to help manage the crowds and keep people back as well. But yeah, and they still have some of those officers still staged on the roof managing the crowds from above. So lots of police presence down in that area, but not necessarily in the areas where all this looting and everything else is taking place.
Devon, we're glad you're safe. We want you to stay safe. Really appreciate your insights tonight and being our eyes and ears on the ground there in the 3rd precinct. Stick close. We'll be coming back to you, I'm sure, a little bit later, but thank you so much.